The letter arrived on a Tuesday, which felt wrong somehow. Bad news should arrive on Mondays when you're already braced. Tuesday has a particular cruelty to it. You've just started to believe the week might be ordinary. I read it 3 times at my kitchen table. IRS Criminal Investigation Division. My name, my social security number, 4 business entities I had never heard of, $487,000 in unpaid federal taxes, a timeline stretching back 31 months. I sat there for a long time after that. The coffee went cold. I didn't notice until I picked it up. I'm an accountant, have been for 14 years. I understand how numbers accumulate, how paper trails form, how identity can be borrowed and worn and discarded by someone who knows just enough about systems to exploit them without understanding they leave marks. Derek never understood that part. He was always better at starting things than finishing them. Businesses, relationships, explanations. He's my brother. 4 years older. Our parents' first real success story until he wasn't. I pulled the business registrations that afternoon. It took me less than an hour to find my name on LLCs, filed in 3 states: Georgia, Nevada, Delaware. Registered agent addresses I didn't recognize, industries I had no connection to. My SSN used as the taxpayer identification number on entities that had moved money I never saw, for purposes I was only now beginning to map. He'd done it carefully. Not carefully enough, but carefully. He would have known I might find it eventually. I think he'd calculated that I wouldn't, or that by the time I did, it would already be someone else's problem to untangle. He calculated that I was the kind of person who absorbs things quietly. He wasn't entirely wrong about that. He was wrong about what I do while I'm being quiet. I called my mother that evening. She picked up on the second ring, which meant she was expecting me, which meant Derek had already called her. She said he was under a lot of pressure. She said it the way she'd been saying versions of that sentence for 30 years, with a gentleness that was also somehow a door closing. My father got on the line and said I had savings, that I was stable, that I could weather things better than Derek could. My sister texted afterward. Talk to a lawyer before doing anything drastic. Nobody said his name, like it was the problem. I said good night to my mother. I told her I loved her, because I do, in the complicated way you love people who have been consistently, non-maliciously willing to hand you something heavy and call it family. I want to be honest about the flash drive because I've thought about it a lot since. I didn't build it out of strategy. I built it the way I do most things, incrementally, methodically, without a clear destination. Derek had borrowed money twice and repaid it once. He'd asked me to hold documents for him 2 years ago, business filings, transfer records, telling me it was just paperwork he needed somewhere safe. I'd kept them because I keep things. I noticed the filings looked unusual, and I copied them because I noticed things. I started a folder because I am, at my core, someone who maintains records. I didn't know what I was building. I understood what it was the morning the IRS letter arrived. The drive had 2 years of material on it, wire transfers, business registration documents in my name that I could prove I hadn't signed, bank records showing transactions routed through entities connected to Derek's known accounts. Copies of the documents he'd asked me to hold, which were now evidence of something he hadn't intended them to document. It wasn't revenge. I want to be precise about that. It was just the truth, organized. The agents came Thursday morning. I'd seen the car from my window, a dark sedan with federal plates. So I had a moment to decide what I wanted to be when I opened the door. I opened it before they knocked. I invited them in. Coffee was already made. That part wasn't performance. I just drink coffee in the morning. I sat across from them at my kitchen table and said I was glad they'd come because I had something I thought would be useful. I set the drive on the table between us. They were professionals. Their expressions didn't change in any dramatic way. But I've been reading rooms since childhood, and I felt the conversation shift. The way attention reorganizes itself when something unexpected enters it. I walked them through the contents methodically. I answered their questions without elaborating beyond what was asked. I had rehearsed this in my head many times. Not the words, the steadiness. I didn't want to perform anger. I didn't feel angry exactly. I felt the way you feel when you finally put down something you've been carrying so long you forgot it had weight. My mother called that evening. She asked how the meeting went. I said it went fine. She asked if I'd cooperated. I said yes. She sounded relieved. I let her. Derek called 6 days later. The call lasted 40 seconds. His voice had a quality I hadn't heard before. Not quite fear, but adjacent to it. A new awareness of consequence. I listened. I told him I hoped he found a good lawyer. I meant it, mostly. I ended the call and stood in my kitchen for a moment, and then I washed the dishes because they needed washing. My accounts were unfrozen. The investigation redirected formally. My name was cleared in documentation that will never be public, never feel like anything cinematic. My father called 3 weeks later and asked if I'd come for Sunday dinner. The family was going through a hard time, he said. I said I'd think about it. I'm still thinking about it. What I know is this. I changed every SSN-linked credential I own the following Saturday. It took most of the day. It was tedious and necessary, and the most clarifying thing I'd done in a long time. Not because it felt powerful, but because it felt mine. I made coffee when I finished. I sat by the window. Outside, the morning went, on the way mornings do, without judgment, without interest, without any awareness of what it had taken to simply still be here, with my name intact, watching it.